This is where the fun begins.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Caff Chat. And I'm so happy to be here with you guys. Today, I'm not coming on camera. I am still very much in pajamas and messy bed hair kind of deal. So it's just been one of those mornings where I just stayed very, very casual. So I'm prepping behind the scenes. So staying warm. It's here where I live. And first of all, I'm going to see who is in and share with me what beverage you're enjoying. I am having my coffee with just a little bit of sweetener, no cream. So I've been enjoying black coffee with a little bit of sweetener. And of course, you can't see it, but I'm drinking it in a Sage Ventress mug. And one of the beautiful works I've done that you can go and purchase as merch or purchase a professional print from either Redbubble or my gallery website that I so if you want to support the channel and you want some amazing fan art and that you go and purchase, you can get mugs, you can get t-shirts, you can get phone on Redbubble. On my yoga website for my gallery, you can purchase the fine art. Yeah, so that's that. And good morning. And again, everyone who are catching the replay, please hit the like button and comment that you are here. And also share any thoughts that you came up with and questions or whatever throughout from watching the stream throughout the stream on the topics that we are discussing today. Oh, hello again. And Fractured Filter has been here since 15 minutes to hell. Thank you so much. He says, good morning all. Remember to smash that like and put in a vote for your favorite Sith. And yes, I'll get to the Sith here pretty soon. I'm trying since the Old Republic all the way to the Order when it first formed has so many Sith options of, if you really to that era and you know the lore in that part of Star Wars timeline, there's so many options and so many great Siths to really research and get to know. And so I had to narrow them down. So once we get to the Rule of Two, it'll be easier to vote for, obviously. And then once we get into the New Republic and Legacy era and all that, it'll get narrowed down some more and easier. The biggest amount of Sith lore is more or less Old Republic and be pre-Old Republic. So thank you for coming in and vote for your favorite Sith. And Matt G is here. Oh my God. Hello. How are you doing, Matt? I'm happy to be here with you guys. Good morning. And today's topic is going to be more or less clones, Order 66, and particularly Commander Cody. So that is, he is the one that served under General Kenobi. So we had Cody and Kenobi. I was like, did I say Commander Kenobi? But it sounds the same. They kind of rhyme, right? But yeah, so we're going to talk about that because it leads the Cringe Factor article. However, I found another one that maybe we want to take a look at. I'm not sure, but it's about the droid army and them being Vader's biggest threat, I guess you can say. I don't know. But I thought that was like, okay, whatever. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. And then Jacob Ironside. Good morning, y'all. Good morning to you, Jacob. I'm glad you are here with us. And we have 11 beautiful souls here. Thank you so much for tuning in and sitting down with me and listening and chatting about Star Wars, nerdy, geeking out about Star Wars and all of that. That's what this is about. So thank you guys for always returning, always supporting. I appreciate you all. And let's see, David Chilson. Good morning, folks, and good morning to you, David, and cheers to you. I'm like holding up my mug. I promise. Excuse me. Wow. Okay, where'd that come from? Sorry about that. Damn, I got all choked up. All choked up. Holocron Library Fox, how are you doing? This is morning, Alora with a heart. Good morning to you. And as always, I don't, advertise it all the time and stuff, but, feel free and, support through sending super chats. If you're catching the replay, super thanks. I am actually looking at some podcast material to add to here as I relocate the area I'm sitting in my studio, up a small little corner for my basically YouTube channel, podcasting, whatever you want to call it. So in and all helps to keep this channel running and keep, the bills towards a stream, like StreamYard and all of that. So your support is greatly appreciated again, but I just like to share that, it's not that I just pocket the money. It goes towards the channel, towards making prints for the art. And I did mail off what I owe everybody. So sorry, you guys. It's been a tough year. 2022 was a hell of a year for me. If you have been following to Rex, deaths in the family, all of that, it was a weird coaster. And I try to stay positive and use the channel as a positive focus as well. Thank you guys again. And I did fall short on some stuff, and I apologize for that. That's the universe. Hail OG and hail the chat. Hello, how are you doing? Happy to have you here and be here with you. David Chilson says, in case y'all discuss the Mandalorian trailer, I personally don't plan on watching the new season. Mando is the primary focus of the story, and the baby is just a back character. I didn't plan on talking about that. I didn't plan on talking about any of that. Yeah. I'm like done with it. It's like I'm not even interested in the Mandalorian or the Bad Batch. Something in the Bad Batch I was gonna bring up here on Coffee Chat, and it goes with pod racing. And since we're talking T clones and stuff like that, I thought I'd bring that up a little bit. So stay tuned for that. It's about the pod racing, and I forgot what they called it in the Bad track racing. I don't know, but yeah. So we're not going to really support that. We're not really going to get into that. I have no on that. So, and I will watch reviews because, like I said, I take notes comparing of the new lore versus the original lore, just to point out inconsistencies and all this other stuff. But other than that, no interest. So, no interest. And let's see here. Good luck with that one. And then Justin Simone, Star Wars Marvel Purist. Hail OG Star Wars, hail chat, hail the EU. Yes, I agree. And of course, wonderful mod here that likes to raise hell with me and finds different ways to raise hell with me. The Vato here, Soul Assassin. Hey, everybody, please hit the like button and share the stream out. Yes, share out to all the social medias that you're associated with. Every one of them, if you're a part of Facebook, Star Wars, like EU stuff, share that we're live. I keep forgetting to share over there. So share and invite people in. Say, hey, we're discussing particularly George Lucas era of Star Wars. And yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the votes for the Sith and let you guys know who's on the list here. You guys may know who they are. Some of you guys may not. But we have XR, who is at 73% of the votes so far out of 15 people who voted. Then we have Ball, which is from the lost tribe of the Sith. He's at 0%. It says 0, but it looks like someone voted for him. So that is weird because when you vote, there's no indicate like little bar indicator. So that's weird. And Junta Paul, Pal or Paul. I always say some pronounce different than until I hear it um, on Audible. You can't rely on Audibles too because you know Coruscant was said different ways until that the Phantom Menace until the PT, right? And then he's at 6%, and then Naga Shadow is at 19%. So gets in, we have a lot of like old time Sith here. Some are going from the first Sith Lords, and stuff from the very first formation of the Sith, as well as the Lost Tribe of the Sith, and then getting into near the um, when Rule of Two was formed. So these are some these are basically ancient Sith. Exar Kun is really known because of his return, I guess you could say, in Jedi Academy trilogy, and that was a very good read. I like that. I like the fact that Luke is still figuring things out. He's still skeptical, doubtful, but hopeful, and set on recreating and bringing the Jedi Order back. Isn't that strong yet, which I absolutely adore that because of course you see your character's progress and grow. And Exar Kun basically in a force coma, and so his students that he's trained, some go to the dark side, but they all get together and try to find a way to help Luke out. And then of course with Luke's force essence or whatever, communicating with the twins, I think it's Jason is the one that gets to save the day, and with the help of his uncle. So I recommend that. It's a very good read if you want to know what's going on with Luke at that time and how the academy's forming. His first Jedi, his first round of students, I guess you can say, it wasn't a very successful one, but he persevered and he pressed on, and we get the wonderful new Jedi Order that comes right after. So yeah, so I highly recommend that as well. That's all in a nutshell, right? And let's see here. Good morning to you, Batu. Let's see here. Orange Hat is here. How are you doing? Drinking my Caff with sugar and hazelnut cream. Sounds good to me. Let's see here. And who else is coming? I don't want to miss anybody, but if I do, I apologize. And Corey Cochran. Hey, what's up? How are you doing? How are you doing? So we are talking about the clones. And first, before we move into the subject of clones, and particularly Cody and Order 66, who is your favorite clone? Or do you have any favorite clone trooper or group, like the Arcs or the Nulls? Do who's your favorite trainer within that? Just let me know here. Let's see here. And so that's here. Who is your favorite clone? So there's a lot, like especially if you get into comics and all of that, there are a lot to consider. There's a lot of characters to consider. Oh goodness. And with Cody, did you know, and this is a fact, did you know CC-2224 are better known as Cody, that he's under the command of Mace Windu at one time, I believe it was before Kenobi. Did you guys know that? Very interesting, isn't that? All right, let's see here. Anybody else? Oh, Miss Smart Muses, how are you doing? Hello. And you are traveling. Well, you travel safe, stay warm out there. This weather, well, where I'm at, the still very gloomy. We've been getting a lot of rain coming through California. So where I'm at, I'm pretty okay. I know certain areas have been flooding because the waterways have been have been changed so much for agriculture and stuff. And the dams and all this other stuff, so water is going to flow into the natural areas where it flows. So we're going to see flooding and stuff like that. And that's happening. And then also with drought and like the shrubs and stuff um that prevent landslides are mostly like burnt down from the fires that we've had and stuff. It land happening and stuff in certain areas, and it's tragic, but that's just how it is. How the earth is. Rodimus Prime 21 says the Revenge of the Sith interview shows that EU connected to the movies and George does care about it. Correct. And I don't understand why people have to be on that. Like, George never cared about the EU, and he didn't even consider part of canon yet. When you look at the PT, he interlinked them to and that the Star Wars is a multiverse. Now, if Wars was a multiverse, and that's been a conversation that I've had this last week, right? If you follow me on, you may have seen that. A lot of you guys probably just say, let Laura go with her conversation. I'm not getting involved. But so the conversation was Star Wars is a multiverse, and I think that Weathers actor, whatever his name is, that plays that Grief or whatever his name is on Mandalorian, he is the one that called it a multiverse. And the topic came up on, and Star Wars multiverse. The company under George's rules and his guidelines that he set, and even him said it's the saga. The saga is just one continuous timeline. It's not a multiverse, right? It's one continuity timeline, whatever you want to call it, under the canon, and all linked together. And when you look at the OT special edition, as well as the creation of the PT, that shares that it's all continuous timeline. Especially when George says, "Well, I'm going to let the EU decide how our novels, the books, show or tell us how Anakin got his scar." And then when you look at interviews with the authors, they will discuss how one singular timeline that they had to get together. They had to consider and not break canon to the movies, right? And then they also had to work together to create a single line of history and stay in continuity with each other. That's one timeline. A multiverse allows reboots, allows new stories of the same people over and over again that does not tie to each other. And I think people misunderstand multiverse. They misunderstand multiverse, and they think that the hierarchy of canon that was after, and I believe it was after, I could be wrong, but I think it is, almost positive is, but this hierarchy of canon was established when Filoni wanting TCW to be a part of the EU, because it was a part. It always has been a part of the EU. And that's when we see in the hierarchy. And I have one of the insiders that does discuss the hierarchy. So that's where I'm almost positive that became a reality once the Clone Wars came. The hierarchy doesn't mean it's a multiverse. What it did is set precedents what was more important. And the movies is the foundation. This is my this is how I see it. The movies were the foundation. So everything that came out of had to stay and keep continuity with the movies. The movies was the foundation that they built. That doesn't mean it's a multiverse. It just means that was the important part of Star Wars, is that to consider was the movies. You can't break continuity. And yeah, George had ultimately, because it is his company, but he never said it was a multiverse. Never ever. Or treat it like a multiverse, because if it was truly a multiverse or a parallel universe, if you want to call it, well, then the company would treat it as such. And there's multiple statements saying and correcting even George's statement on that. But that's my little tangent. I'm done now. Jackson says, only got a few minutes after 10 for a few weeks, still catching. Well, thank you so much. Let me know that you went in and watched and rewatched, and leave any comments or questions ever, and I will get back with you on that. Okay, so just let me know. That's what this is all about. Even if you replay, I recommend you to leave comments or whatever and contribute to the chat, not live chat, but to the chat afterwards. Just plain coffee with cream. Yum. See here. I'm only going with Naga because he's only one who doesn't seem insane. A lot of them, because it's about power and control and stuff, and they do kind of insane in a way, insane in the main brain, insane in the brain. Yeah, that's how I seen the Sith of the time. They eventually all go crazy. They all have some mental issues. We even see, with Anakin's fall. It's to me, there's a bit of mental issue there. And it's all, that's like a part of it's like you get so enthralled and so overstricken with power. And that was one of the main, like, is unlimited power. I'm not going to try to say it like he did, but it just takes control, and it gets into narcissism, right? And all that you want control, you want the power, you want to rule, you want to be the voice, all of that. And it all goes into the dark side, as George explains what the dark side is about. Jim, what's up? Hello, everyone. All right, so we're getting into the favorite clone. My are the null arcs. If Cody was a CC, that means he was a clone commando. CC was commando nation, right? CT is clone trooper. All odd that Cody had the CCs. That's because when he was created, the Commonians, and I probably said I'm always having trouble with that word. Seeing how much he had more individual, like a commando does, right? And so that's where, and we'll get, in fact, we'll go ahead and talk about it here pretty quick. I have to run and get something real quick, so you guys talk amongst each other. Sorry, but I have to go grab something really, really quick. I'm gonna run. It's just in the room next to me. So the difference between the CC, the commando clones, and and breeding process of them, and all that. So, God dang it. All right. That was quick. So yeah, so good that you mentioned that, because that's part of the stuff that's part of the topic I wanted to talk about with the clone is, their designation and what that means and what the cloning means to the type of cloning, how they genetically modify certain clones to be certain, like commanders and all of that, and how they into them as well. So thank you for bringing that up, and that will be what's a null arc. Null arcs were the very first ones created, that they wanted some individual thought, not genetically modified and controlling thought, I guess you could say. If that exactly, I'd probably butchered that, but they realized that they were so independent in a way that they were going to destroy them, and there was like 12 of them, and then we end up with 6 or 7 of them. But anyways, that they were going to basically destroy them, and Cal stepped up and took them in and started training them and stuff, and so they became a special ops. So there, I really need it. I've been saying this and I've been thinking this in the back of my mind since they did the Bad Batch, and I did a huge tweet thread about that, and I since then unpinned it from my tweets, so you will have to scroll all the way back in time with all the posts I ever did. But I did write a big thread about who they are, what they are, and I guess how special they are. And the Bad Batch is a knockoff of the Null Arc. So if you follow me on Twitter, and like Orange if you want, and the Sentinel, or and if you want to just explain a little bit more on the Null Arc for me, because this is a huge topic in itself, the Null Arcs, but part of the clones, right? They are part of the clones. So if someone wants to give a brief description, some more description from what I get, then go ahead and do so. Because this is all about not only what I know, but what you guys know and what you guys can share. Because we are here talking about Star Wars and sharing each other's knowledge. This is what this is about. Caff Chat is about sharing our knowledge about Star Wars, its story, technology, characters, all of that, right? So no arcs are what the Bad Batch are trying to be in a sense. And Calscarada was one of the Mandalorian trainers that were brought in to train. And so very, very compelling, interesting story. The Bad Batch does not measure up to them whatsoever. And there was no chip. There was no chip for these guys. There was absolutely no chip until the Clone Wars. Even in the movies and even in the EU, even post Return or Revenge of the Sith, there was really no chip. So there's that big, huge discrepancy between the Clone Wars and that. Let's see here. I'm going to... the dark side is subtle, and you don't realize that you're going into it at first. And then we see that with Anakin. A great story right there about the dark side and the turning. Is if you really want to see, and then maybe a little bit with Jason, but he chose, like he was allowing the manipulation. He knew what he was getting into in a sense. If you Jason Solo's story, but with Anakin, it was so well done with Palpatine's manipulation of him that he didn't really see himself. And then when he started realizing, or when he started accepting it, it was because he thought he was doing good. He thought that, I'm just going to go and learn so I could save life. So there was a promise of learning a dark side ability, and he kind of took it, thinking. And I wish they would have, George, and I'm pretty, we were talking about a movie that can only have so many hours or so many, right? But if we could got more into Anakin's psyche, that would have been awesome. Like his conflict. We've seen conflict in him. We've seen him push and pull with that. We quiet emotion and stuff like that. But just to have some thought a little tiny bit. But Revenge of the Sith novelization, hands down, you need to read it. You need to read it. Yeah. And to little by become addictive. Yeah, and the easy access to force powers by the side. The easy way is the Sith, right? And my favorite clone of all times is Alpha 17. Yes, okay, we'll probably be getting in, I think. He's the one that basically trains Cody. I believe so. And he brings, I think he's the one that trains Cody, brings him into Squad 7, which is a significant Commander Cody. And so, and I don't get into much of his character per se when we talk. So if you invite that conversation in the chat and I'll highlight it, that'll be good. I'm testing all you guys know about the clones. Dun, dun, dun. All right, the Sentinel. The original ARC troopers were the line of defense for Camino, correct? When it was invaded, they had no choice but piece them into service. Yeah, that was a good story arc right there. They were close to Jango Fett as possible of badassness. Right. I remember that when I think Anakin was there and he was still a Padawan, Kenobi. That was a great comic read right there. And I think got this down here, and this is what from my research is said about Commander Cody, or CC-2224. He is about 91% to Jango Fett. So that's how close his genetics, altering and controlling the mind, altering the mind for mind control, like to be obedient and stuff. That so that's how the percentage didn't go. And now that you mentioned it, and I researched just only Cody's, now I want to research all of them and like how genetically, if it's shared, how genetically close are the null arcs to Django, and the null arcs themselves, how close are they to Django? If Cody is 91%. That's an interesting one right there. Let's see here. I think the nulls were immediately the alphas. From what I remember in my research, that they were the very first one made, and then because the Kimonian did not like the results, and they were going to go ahead and just execute them basically, or terminate basically. And then the alphas were the ones that were created, because then they had an idea of where they with the genetic wise, and that Calscarata saved the arcs from being terminated. So that's what I remember with that. And then Captain Fortnal, I believe. I think so too, but I'm not sure either. I'll have to look into that. I'm much into Fordo's background, although he is a wonderful in Clone Wars 03. I wish we got more of him. Yeah. Let's see here. And with that, I haven't had a chance to get into to using, was it screen something, so that we can watch Clone Wars 03 together without it fully showing on screen for channel members. So I still have to link that and get that set up. So stay tuned for that, channel members. And if you haven't become a channel member, please do so. The support is greatly appreciated, and I'm hoping to return back some favors for you guys supporting the channel by doing watch parties and stuff. It's just the way that YouTube is organizing, it seems all the time, that we have to find very different inventive ways to do things, like do watch parties together and stuff. So I'm setting that up so that we can sit and watch 03 together, so that we don't get a strike. Or we might have to do it without going live. I don't know. We'll see. And then Rumble. I just haven't been advertising my Rumble at all, but I am on Rumble as well. I do have just a small following, but please, you guys, follow me there on Rumble. I don't have the link on me. I keep forgetting about it. Obviously, I'm so bad. I am so bad, you guys. Wah, wah, wah. Yeah, and I'm so bad about using this kind of stuff.
This is madness.
This is madness. I got to redo that clip because it seemed like it got short.
This is madness.
This is mad. It's supposed to say this is madness, I think. I'm not sure. But I forget that I have those little tidbits that I use and play as part of the stream and stuff. Look it up if you don't believe me. Oh no, let's see here. I would like to see 4-hour cut of Revenge of the Sith. Oh, like behind the scenes and stuff. What I like to do is, when I do have a chance to sit down and watch Revenge of the Sith, I also like to watch the making of, because then you get more commentary and stuff behind that. That's so much fun to watch. But hands down, it's unabridged if you want to listen to it, but it's like 20 something hours, I believe. I'm not sure. But there's a lot of ideas that George wanted that he had to take out, because it was in itself become huge production. Revenge of the Sith was becoming a huge production. And I'm pretty hard for George to decide what to cut, what to keep. Because there's so much, like when Padme was sitting down with Mon Mothma and Bell, and they were discussing, about the about Palpatine, what to do next. And this is like the early ideas of forming alliance and what ifs, what would they do if Palpatine took full control and stuff. So that's interesting to see, because then it would go, well with OT as well. But a novel. So let's see here. Rodimus Prime says, hello, how are you doing? And here's a channel member as well as Orange Hat Review. In the interview, George says the fans know about Star Wars than he does. Keep in mind, he says the EU Star Wars. Yeah, that's what he is. He associates the EU as Star Wars, as a of the continuity. And I think he adores, and he always adored the fans. Um, but he adores the fact that we as fans wanted so much more after the movies. And do you know that the first thing that come out of Star Wars wasn't the movie? It was the movie novel. So it was Star Wars, the movie novel that before the movies. So when you read Star Wars, Adventures of Luke Skywalker, Now a New Hope, or whatever you want to, say, because there was title changes, that you are reading some of the stuff that he took out of the movie initially. So you get cutscenes in there. You're going to get eventually that Yoda is blue in Empire Strikes Back, because he allowed the novels to be published first. And this is after the fact of him changing scenes or taking scenes out or what have you. So it's very interesting to read that, watch the movie, and then go back and see the PT, because then you have ideas that were taken out of the movie that are still in the novels, and then so the novels kind of conflict a little bit with the PT, because the novels came out first. So that's interesting, and that he did that. Revenge of the Sith novelization is top tier Star Wars. I agree. So getting back to clones, facts. He trains all the later captains and commanders, I believe. Yes, he does. I was going to get into that as well. So you guys are on top of your ish here. Woo! And this is here. So this is at the Sentinel, but I'm just going to read this anyways. No Fordo, no Arc. Fordo is an Arc, but not no Arc. So we'll have to look into that. Let's see here. Fordo is Arc 77. And that's the year Star Wars came out officially. Like the movie. The novel came out a little, I think it's maybe still 77. I had to take a look at the copyright on there. Gotta love Papa Cal, right? Right. Speaking of Fordo, has anyone else here found the edits where Fordo is in Sector 4 while Doom music of Freebird is playing? No. Someone find it. I want to see it. That sounds interesting. Now my curiosity is like, I'm like, my curiosity has been sprung here. I want to know. I want to see that. Yeah. Please hit the like button and share. Same lore, or some lore. Share some lore. I wouldn't mind a 4-hour cut long as it completely free of Filoni's BS. Oh, you mean the Revenge of the Sith? Yeah, there was nothing in there that even links to, and not the TCW even contradicts Revenge of the Sith and Attack of the Clone. That's fact. That is fact. There's no synergy with it whatsoever. No synergy between that. But those movies do have synergy with the EU. So, I mean, it's just all there. TCW fits more with Disney. And when Filoni decided to continue with TCW, he written it so that it goes into the timeline of Revenge of the Sith. It doesn't mesh with it. Because when you get into Revenge of the Sith movie, about the events that are happening in the EU, like going on with Quinlan and stuff like that, but no mentions of Anakin splitting up the 501st and letting Ahsoka take him to fight the Mandalorians. There's no mention of the Mandalorian War that's going on during that time now. There's no mention of any of the events going on. But he took his liberty, and under Disney, he took his liberty. There's even no mentions of Ahsoka. And I think that's the reason why that George wanted to die before Revenge of the Sith, basically, because there is no mention. No mention of it. And she's such a pivotal character towards Anakin. And now he has written TCW into Revenge of the Sith timeline area. It can't now. And it raises questions that will never be answered. It intrudes. The EU never intruded because George created movies to coincide, even special editions to, create a synergy between the movie or the G or movie canon and the C canon or the continuity canon. And it's a beautiful thing, and people don't realize that, or they're just putting on blinders because they still want it to be that the EU was irrelevant and George didn't like it. Whatever. The evidence, the proof is in the pudding, as they say. Okay. OG Star Wars StreamYard decided to make clips of fade out, of cut out, like they used to. Many of us YouTubers are not happy about that new development. I'm gonna have to look into it. I'm like, there's so much stuff going on and changes. It's crazy. If you could have one of the Sith lightsabers, how would it, or what would it pick? So if I could have one, then what would I pick? Is that what you're saying? I don't know. Let me get back to you. So chat, answer that too. Like, do you have a favorite Sith lightsaber, and what would you want? It was written Ellen Dean Foster too, right? Yeah. So Ellen Dean Foster written it. George also was quote unquote a ghost writer for it as well. Yeah. All the YouTube shenanigans going on, having a backup on a new tech site, I'd recommend Odyssey. I have to connect to Odyssey. I haven't yet. So once I do, know on that. When it comes to Mandalorian and the arcs and no arcs, in my element, as they are my absolute favorite story arcs. Very interesting. I'm glad to know that. So feel free to share away here. The Sentinel says the book came in 1976. Okay, I thought so, but I doubted myself, and I'm like 1976. And Star Wars used novels to tell its story before the movie came out. Unfortunately, that's lost on people who can't read, like Disney fans, right? And see, that's where I was like, 76. Well, I'm pretty positive, but maybe it was 77. Yeah, because I was, just doubting myself, because I do that a lot. I doubt myself a lot. It's like, it's there, but then I question myself. I'm like, is that really, so that's just maybe a confidence level or whatever. I don't know. But yeah, it was 76 and very interesting to read, because then you get some of the cutscenes in there are some of the changes that made versus the novel, because the novel was already published. I know the novel came out before the movie. I just wasn't sure. Like I said, I doubted because the year, but I know that it was before the movie. Let's see here. We're going to take a look at the voting here. We still got about 5 minutes. So if you guys are tuning in, go vote for your favorite Sith. And this is like the Old Republic, like BT, going all the way back to like 7,000 BBY, I guess you can. So I kind of picked little eras of the timeline time, and chose some Sith Lord, Darth Lords, I guess you can say. And I put them on my YouTube community, and there's 3 polls that I did. And I, whatever was the result, who were the top ones of those timelines, I went ahead and rounded the top 3, added Exar Kun, and came up with the results here that you guys are voting. So, favorite Sith, Exar Kun is still leading at 96%. Darish Vol, which is the Lost Tribe of the Sith, he came about 33. Or is that when he died? Anyway, so 8%. And the Junta Paul, 4%. And Naga, 12%. So we have Exar Kun leading, I think maybe because he is known as of the Jedi Academy. I don't know, but he is also the influence of the double-bladed lightsaber that George loved and used it for Maul. So another EU thing. Like a synergy there. It's all linked together some way, somehow. And George is who did it. Let's see here. Darth Bane, like, pretty cool. And then Monkey Jeebus. Hello, Monkey Jeebus. Did George use any from the expanding universe in the prequels? He totally could have made references. He used a lot. I just shared one with a double-bladed lightsaber. Quinlan Voss is basically EU. So when Voss was invented, they took an image from a sit in Mos Eisley, I believe it is. At a table, they took the liking, a person that looks exactly like Quinlan Voss, and they took Lucasfilm and said, I'm making this into an EU character. So we have that cross reference there now. And then you have many others. There's a huge list of that. Another idea of a video of like what EU characters, and then you have like the Battle of Seleucami that was discussed, and so much there, so much. Revan is my favorite, and Matt G's like coffee. I agree. Need some more coffee myself. I'm almost done with mine. I'm like halfway done. Favorite lightsaber, Darth Malgus's lightsaber looks badass. Okay. Hello. Is anybody out there? Okay. Hey, let's see. Coruscant are EU. There's a lot. It's like poetry. It rhymes. And people use that so much out of context now when it comes to like the Disney and stuff like that. It's so it kind of gets like cringe. Yeah, Malgus is pretty badass too. Yeah, you guys are agreeing on that. And the Great Hyperspace War mural in Palpatine's office, correct? And I did talk about that, and people were trying to shoot me down on that as well, the anti-EU people. But that is one thing. Hyperspace War mural. There you go. Palpatine collected Sith facts from the beginning, like even before he became an apprentice under Plagueis. He was so interested in Sith lore. And then as he became an apprentice, he started hoarding more and more and more. And that then gets into when he basically did Order 6 and destroyed the Jedi almost completely. And so he's hoarding some of the Jedi artifacts as well. That's another great thing that you see and you learn about in not only the Thrawn trilogy of Mount Tantus. There's a lot of artifacts there. You also have that in the X-Wing series as well. So he was aware of knowledge and stuff like that because he, knowledge was power to him. It was a Sith thing, and he didn't. And then he wanted the Jedi to be totally extinct and slowly faded out of history. So many different aspects of that. But we're going to get back into the lore so that we could start segueing, or not into clone. So we can start segueing into the cringe factor. So I specifically wanted to talk about Cody and the clones and Order 66. Oh, with Order 66, we all know, like, pre-Clone Wars, Filoni's version, there was no chips. So when we see Attack of the Clones, it is described that they were genetically modified to be obedient and to have superior qualities and like tactical, physical brutality, all of that, like everything that made Jango a very interesting character as a Mandalorian, as an individual, was, I guess you can say, kept. But the genetically altered part of it was the mind on being very obedient. She did not say, we inserted a biochip to keep them obedient. She said that they genetically altered. And I think that's that's the key words there, genetically altered. And so when you see, them discussing, and Kenobi's getting the tour, and the babies inside the cylinders there, and the young Fett, is what I'm going to call them, the young clones, the young Fets, they're getting their flash training, and it's called when they're in front of the screen they have their helmets on or their ear, whatever they're wearing on top of their heads and stuff. They are getting flash training. Where did that come from? The flash training? It feels like it came from the EU, but I did not fully research it, so nobody knows the flash training. I believe it came from the EU, and or the name of it at least. And so they're getting their programming, their flash training, so that they can be these elite group of soldiers. And I thought that was very interesting how they came up with this. And the Ionians did kind of come from, in a sense, the Thrawn trilogy, the idea of cloning and stuff. There's a synergy, like I said, going on. And we have Stigno in the house. Hello, how are you doing? Sorry it did not fit you. Maybe you should work out. No, I'm joking. And let's see here. So Soul Assassin says, if the clones had and the training from Jango and his instructors were not needed. Correct. That's another thing. Great. Because we had the training. So like the arcs, whether they're no arcs or what, they had their individual trainers. They had what they called the friends. And I'm sorry, I'm not too privy on Mando names as of, but they were basically the forgotten ones or the ones, or whatever. And I forgot how in Mandalore. Yeah, Jango brought in the best he thought to help train these troopers and the Knoll troopers and stuff like that. And there was a nice handful of them. And so they came in, and so these Mandalorians also Mandalorian culture. So they not only the skills of fighting and also fighting Jedi. If you think about it, Mandalorians, their enemy that they despise is the Jedi, and that they are known to, how to kill Jedi, right? So there you go. There's a little linking into like what 6 could be, what comes of it, because they kind of learn Mandalorian culture, how to fight Jedi well, in a sense. And I thought that was very interesting that the EU expanded so much on that. And there's so much like little tidbits in the lore that you can go into and think, oh my God, look at how brilliant these guys were with creating the lore and these little tiny aspects, crossing cultures into these clone troopers because of the origins of their template, Jango Fett. So I thought that was very interesting. Let's see here. And then Kenobi says, there was never a chip. Right. There was never. And thank you so much, Magnino Alex, too, for coming and giving me the $2 super chat. He is a channel member here, and you should be receiving your print here. Like I said, I apologize. The 2022 was such a freaking hell of a ride, but you should be receiving some mail here pretty soon. So stay tuned for that. And so hello there, he says, and thank you for the continued support. And Orange Hat, this is why don't work. A chip being activated for the destruction of the Jedi would be as a danger warning. Simply following the executive order presents no malice, hence unsensed. Very interesting take on that as well. Like your guys' thought process on that. Everybody has their own way of looking at it, and hey, this doesn't make sense because of this, and this, so. And then Barden Flash Sentry here. Good morning, OG and chat. Good morning. And what is in your cup? What beverage are you enjoying? I'm still sipping on my coffee. It kind of got cold, but I'll drink too. I don't care. It is good stuff. Good stuff in the morning. That's your wake up juice. Well, I won't go there. Never mind. Spartan says, nice to see XR Kun Leos. Yes, he is. I think I might have one more for the Old Republic, because there's such a huge like saturation of Sith, because this is before the Rule of Two, and them basically hiding in the back, and planning the revenge of towards the Jedi and stuff. I think I might have one more poll on my community page, just to narrow it down one more time, and then we'll go on to the different eras, like the Rule of Two one, and then go to New Republic era and into the One Sith. So we'll see what comes of that. And there you go, Koi Veldar. There you go. So much. I'm like, I don't remember it. I didn't write it down last night. When I was prepping, I was like, should I write down these terms? I was like, I think I will just ask the chat, and see who's remembering and who has studied up on their lore, kind of like, the Miss Teacher here, even though the teacher forgets stuff like that, or can't recall, basically. I know what they are. I just can't remember the Mandalorian name for it. But yeah, but you know me, I like to be here, my glasses on and my ruler, giving you guys assignments and quizzing you, all that fun stuff, because hey, it keeps us sharp, right? Let's see here. As Coon should. Yep. Steak says, if there was a Palpatine wouldn't have had to activate it by a holocron. He could have just pressed a button. The commander heard him saying it, so if there, so it should affect the rest of. Yeah, true. So going back to Cody, our CC-2224, like I said earlier, he is like 91% similar to Jet, and the name Cody was given to him by General Kenobi. So this Cringe Factor article that we're coming on, I'm going to come back to that point. Keep that in mind. This is a point that I'm coming back to for what they have to say about General Kenobi in the Cringe Factor article here. So we go from Cody, who stays with, basically the new order that's coming up. So he's, under Palpatine's command, basically, from the Grand Army of the Republic to the Galactic Alliance, the Stormtrooper Corps. He put them all the way to 1 BBY, but that's when we don't know what happens to him after we get to the buyout of Star Wars, right? So that's the date I'm associating that. We know he is up until 1 BBY, so just before the Yavin battle. And he never falls. He does give his opinion about the Stormtroopers and what he feels about the Stormtrooper Corps and the Army and how, I guess you can say. So he has his strong opinion about that. He sees himself in the clone superior. And I think he's right about that. I really do. Because he sees like these human birthed troopers inferior to the clone ones that were modified. Again, going back to the genetically modified version, the ones that were, born basically test tube babies, if you want to call it that. He sees them as more superior because of the fact of how they were born. They're genetically modified, altered beings. So he sees himself. He has a superior he sells as superior construct, I guess you could say, or whatever. And let's see here. I'm going to scroll down here. Let's see here. So I just finished a delicious Monster energy drink. I don't care for energy drinks, but more power to you. That's cool. Or as I call it, juice. Bong juice. Okay. About to brew a cup of Korean coffee in a bit, though. Wow. Okay. So you're like, I'm gonna be energized here. And yeah, check out my merch on Redbubble here. And I think I had someone buy Quinlan Voss print for his phone case, and I forgot what else he bought, but I thought that was pretty cool. I'm very happy that people are enjoying it. I meant to read that. I prefer the pre-chip era where the clones were just extremely good sleep. Is correct. And when you get into the lore and you get into like when Baron was cloned. I think it was him. I think he's the Fel that was cloned when we get into the Hand of Thrawn duology. There's no chip either because it's genetically modified. So if it was meant to be a chip, you would think that something went wrong to why these clones later on that were produced don't have chips in the lore. So see how it doesn't make sense still? Like you would have to explain why I'd use a biochip to control the upcoming clones, like the Fel clones that are used. Well, they were sort of used, And so, going back into Cody's are going to segue here because it's coming up at the top of the hour, but let's go ahead and close the poll here. So if you're in right now, get your vote in while I am saying or reading off the results here. And if I change, then I will, let you guys know of any changes. But XR Kun has the win at 79%. Darish Vol is at Ajunta is at 3%, and Naga 1%. So that is the standings. I'm ending the poll now with that. I have one more, and I'm going to add XR Kun to it since he's got 2 rounds that he's been top vote. I'm going to have one more round of Old Republic Sith. It's going to be put here on YouTube's community, not my Twitter YouTube community. So there's a difference between the two. I'm going to put it here, YouTube community, for you guys to vote on with XR Kun and 3 other people to narrow it down. Next Thursday, we'll start moving through the eras of Sith after the Old Republic. So the Rule of 2, and then we'll go into the New Republic era kind of situation, and then we'll get into Legacy. So we'll get into all of those there. So, and I am going to use Lost Tribe of the Sith for later on for voting. So we'll have the Star Kai and and all of them. So it's gonna be hard to down a little bit with that, but it was particularly hard for Old Republic, pre-Old Republic, because of the choices that I had to do other polls to narrow these guys. So thank you guys for voting on that. XR Kun still remains the top, but changes with the next poll, and hopefully I'll remember to post it by today, so stay tuned for that. Now with Cody, he was basically seen special because he had more independent thought process, because he was 91% similar to Jango Fett, and so he was put into the 7th Corps, commander of the 212th Attack Battalion. So a little bit of history of him before we get into segue into the cringe factor. So during Order 66, he was no nonsense. Cody in general was a no nonsense person, but that's how we kind of see Jango Fett. Like he was like no nonsense. When you gave him a task or he took a job or whatever, he was like, he stuck, right? So that was part of Jango's character arc as well. So no nonsense, followed in issuance of Order 66. So that's another point that I'm going to bring up in this article here. In mind with that, he followed the issuance of Order 66. He really, he didn't regret it as much as they're alluding to in this cringe factor article. But Disney lore versus original lore. But then again, too, when you look at Cody's arc, there's a arc in TCW, and some of those, like I said, TCW is not my bag. But when it comes to some of the episodes that involve just the clone troopers, I've enjoyed. So, and that includes some of Cody's as well. And then he also entered into special training to provoke independent thought. Of his genetically similar, 91% similar to Jay, he was also deemed to go into that training, and he trained with ARC Trooper 17. Now I know, I think it was it Soul Assassin? I think it was Alpha 17 is a favorite character, and so he had training with him, and he was assigned to Squad 7, and Squad 7 basically is squad of elite group made up of best snipers, demolition experts, and Marines. And that gained him company ranking Jedis on special missions, and granted him command because of his expertise and all this other stuff and his advancement. It granted him command of squads. So another little brief history here as well for him. And after Order CC-2224, Cody was only a name that Kenobi gave him. And if you were familiar with the Republic comics, you know, there was a bit of compassion that Kenobi implied towards the clones. So it's like, I can't call you by your number. Let's come up with a name. And so we know that Kenobi named his commanders. And Cody is one of them. It wasn't something that was just given because they were special, that they were genetically similar to Jango, the closest similar to Jango, right? It was because of the compassion Kenobi had. And that was before TC. And so that's another point that we're going to come back to for the Cringe is the naming of Cody. And so after Order 66, he was also among the first of the Imperial Stormtroopers. So he got, once they started phasing the armor out and giving the first phase of the Stormtrooper, he of course that as well. And the rise of recruitment of the birth-born human, again, I talked about this earlier, or not too long ago, is that he's seen inferior to the clones. And he's seen basically the army has regressed. So the Stormtrooper Corps to him is a regression of what was mighty about the Galactic Republic Army, or the whatever. I probably said that out of order, but still, you know what I meant. But so he sees them all as inferior to the clones. So he's seen him and the clones more special because of how they were born, because of how they were all, because of their training and all of that. Now, before we do the segment, I just want to see what you guys are saying, and then we're going to get into the article here. Let's see here. And Jacob says, I don't think they need be a chip. They just needed to stick to the good soldiers follow orders. Right. And that's what they did before TCW. I wish I could find the interview, but I know the interview. I found it a couple times. I need to look for it again. But their interview from George Lucas, and I really need to find it so then I can put a video on that George never intended a chip kind of deal, which is going to probably just piss a lot of TCW fans off. But there's an interview with George, video and of course a written article about him saying that there's no chips. I need to find it. And that's after the fact of the chip. There's no chips. So why was it allowed then? I don't know. Maybe he just didn't think it was canon. I don't know. I don't know. I wish there was more to why it was even though he said there's no chips. And we can go back to George thinking, well, in my movies, because when he talks about the lore, when he talks specifically about his lore, he's talking about what he in the movies, right? And that's what he considers his lore, and that's what sets precedence towards ending the lore, right? Is his lore. So in his movies, which canon, there's no chip. So I need to find that. I really, really do. Hopefully it wasn't taken down. You know how they like to rewrite history these days. So hopefully it wasn't taken down. If I could find that, I will absolutely do the video. Done it the last few times I looked at it, and that's within the last year, two and a half years. I should have done it within the time frame that I found him. I didn't though, and I should have. I hope I can find it, and once I do, I will do the video. Okay. And Magneto says, I also don't count Vulcarian as a Sith, otherwise he'd have my vote. Ah, okay, interesting. Vistari is a great character, bad Sith though, kind of a bad Sith though. Yeah, I know. I love everybody's different opinions and what they dislike. Baby Yoda's a great Sith. Baby Yoda's a freaking rodent wannabe gremlin. Let's see here. OG Star Wars. Is there any Disney era stuff you like? I think Star Wars Squadrons, Star Wars Uprising, and some stuff from Front 2 era material is fantastic and fits with OG lore. I'm not interested at all. I will praise stuff that seems like it's keeping continuity and stuff. I'll give credit where credit's due. It's very few far in between. So yeah. Let's see. Says, but she didn't intend to. Star has a lot of good in her, but she made her choice by the end. She was still Sith. Her intentions were still very Sith-like intentions. So that's something that is a good topic to talk about here on Caff Chat. No, baby, I don't need you. My little cat. I have a kitten. He's about 5-6 months old now. But he, is a kitten. So tired or whatever, he wants attention and stuff. He's over here by me and he purrs loud. So if he jumps up here and things crash around, he's still learning not to do stuff. So it's very interesting. Comes in and gets demanding of me. So Soul Assassin says Jango hated the Jedi. He killed his true Mandalorian army and his family history with them. Yep, exactly. I'd love redemption for her. No, I don't think there's a redemption at all. I don't think there's any good in her. She'd have a long way to go if she wants redemption and no room to make even an unwittingly wrong move. Correct, because she basically goes against the Skywalker, the Jedi, is on so many different levels. But that's again another debate, another time and that might have to be a topic here on Caff Chat pretty soon. Vader was forgiven. He's the chosen one. I think there's a difference between that. And he destroyed the Sith and stuff like that. So they're totally different. Totally different. Oleg got redeemed. Redemption she can too. Again, yeah, I know, but each one is different with that. Like Kip, his arc as well. That was also questioned in Legacy, and he was going to go on trial like Harry did, because of course, Dala was like, and did some good points to Luke about that. And the thing is that Kip went out on revenge for his sibling. Now that, yeah, and he got redeemed from it, and it was forgiveness. But when you come with what Vistara did against Alana, against the Order, against Ben and stuff, she can get redeemed, but I don't even think she deserves to be alongside Walker. But again, that's another story that we could present all this here with these redemption clauses. Knock it off, little one. He's going after my mouse wire. Reese, I think, yeah. I have no idea what's going on, Commander Cody, so now I'm here. Yes, we're talking about that. In fact, we should get into that. We kind of strayed away from Cody a little bit. But we are in a conversation about redemption and blah, 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 blah. They were both hell of a Jedi before they were corrupted. Anakin gets points for being miracle child. Correct. And Marcia created the chip. She probably did. She probably planted that. That's still not. It doesn't matter. Sith. She was born that way. It's never our fault, but she was a Sith. She was raised a Sith. That's all she knows is Sith, and that's even what she cares about. Her fault, Alana was almost killed, and so how she was born doesn't negate what she did. So yeah. Let's see. Volcron is a Sith. He just moved past the petty squabbling of power and politics that the Sith engaged in his failed empire. He gave himself to the dark side completely. And I enjoyed playing the Sith Knights of the Old Republic more than a Jedi. Only a few quests made me cringe to act Sith, like killing innocents. They Sith, though. That's what Sith are. Not saying she should be redeemed or that it's likely that it is possible. Now in Kip's case, I say he's working off his debt to society by spending all of his days being a Jedi date. Oh, there's a point there too. And like I said, no, it's cool. I love having a discussion like this, and I'm seeing other people's points, and that's what this is about. And my cat is up on my easel playing with my. You guys, this cat, he's a kitten. He's a kitten. Oh my god. Okay, so I'm gonna come on screen, but I'm gonna show you guys what the hell's going on if he stays up there. I don't know if you could see him, but he's in the easel right there. He kind of blends in because he's orange. Look at that. Look at that little shit ass. Look at that. Okay, that's what I deal with. My Sith cat. Speaking of Sith cat, I'm gonna go ahead and take him off of there before he crashes everything. And I have art underneath there. What are you doing? Get down from there. He's gonna turn the knob and the thing's gonna flip over, or I'm gonna forget about it and it's gonna fall apart. I don't know. Let's see. But thank you guys. Hey Becky, how are you doing? But thank you, Magnino, and everybody's talking and debating this. I appreciate that because, like I said, we're all going to agree, disagree. There's going to be points that we're going to agree with, points that we don't. But that's what this is about, is sharing each other's ideas of what could have been, especially now that we'll never probably see it ever. And I think it's a great conversation. I really do. Sith are just more interesting than Jedi. People like dark, shady people, I guess. But let's go ahead and get into the cringe factor article here. I'm going to go ahead and share a commercial as we segue.
The fate of the galaxy is now in your hands. With the new LEGO Star Wars Slave One, you can load Captain Solo, arm your weapon systems, man the cockpit, and take off with the most feared ship in the galaxy. But watch out for rebel ships. No matter the enemy, no matter the firepower, you control the action. With the new LEGO Star Wars collection.
And here we go. So here's the article here. And thank you guys listening to that here. My cat's still over here raising hell. So I got a split attention span because of that. The damn little, I love him. His name is Toby. Yeah, but he is a character. He is very energetic to where he gets the zooms around and attacks and plays with things, carries around socks. So if I'm missing any socks, he probably will find them. All right, so this is what this is about here, this cringe factor article. Clones were never going to work with the Empire, and Cody proves it. So when I seen this, when I was looking for a cringe factor article, so we can discuss and maybe find more evidence on the direction where they're going to take these characters, especially George Lucas era characters. I was like, okay, let's see what they're going with this, because, knowing Cody's, how he feels about the creation of the Stormtrooper Corps, the Stormtroopers. If you know his lore, his history, you know his thoughts and how he feels the clones were superior. He did a little bit have like a little compassion, maybe, I don't know, to Order 66, but basically followed orders. He followed orders. And this is by Kevin Erdman. Star Wars confirms that even if the Empire had wanted to keep clones as their primary military force, the clones themselves would have been a problem. And the thing is like, okay, so in the original lore, they it took them a while to phase out their clones. In fact, the clone army was the first phase of the first generation and leading into the second generation of the stormtroopers. And it took them a while to phase them out. But Cody never AWOL'd. So in here, so you're getting a glimpse of what is going to be read here. So let me see what you guys are saying in chat before I move on. You can hear him. He is playing with an earring of mine right now on the floor. He knocked it down the table, off the table. So he's over there being preoccupied. So I guess I'll sacrifice an earring. Well, hopefully he doesn't eat the damn thing. I don't know where I left off on the chats here. But let's see here. My number one favorite faction in Star Wars are the Mandalorians. And that's what makes the clones very interesting is the Mandalorian training that some of them get. The special ops get or the ARCs get. Please hit the like button. Yes. Let's see here. Cody worked. He carried out Order 66. Yeah, he did. He did. But Disney is making him be more compassionate and making him have second thought about that and wanting to AWOL like it's all bad because he loves Kenobi. So they're making him a soft cuck, basically. They are making him a soft cuck because, and I'm going to say this, maybe because, the actor that they use for Jango is a POC, a person of color. And I hate this tokenism that goes on with us. But because of that, they have to make sure that, he gets out of this slavery of the clones. And of course, when you read the Commando series, they do have their thought about the Jedi and seeing them as leading a slave army, that they're the slave army and stuff like that. You see that, and that's in there, and I understand that. So are they applying some of what Karen Travis did into this? You make that decision. Once I get through this article, you make that decision. So Soul Assassin says the clones really didn't rebel against the Empire. The clones used the communal rebellion, were a different batch trained to be loyal to the Commonians. Correct. And I was going to get to that. But that's why I clicked on that because, that's a point that I want to allude to as well or bring up is that the Commonians basically created a different batch of clones as an army to rebel. And that's it. And the ones that came in and fought against them were the actual Fett clones. So we're getting a little bit, we're getting into more of the lore. Like I said, once you dive into a certain area or era of Star Wars, there's so much you can get into it. You can get involved in it to a deeper aspect. There's so much enrichment of lore that each one of these creators that were brought in by George Lucas, who set the foundation, who set the rules, the guidelines on what they can and cannot do, what he wants and what he doesn't want. You get deeper into the lore, you get more ingrained into like the little tidbits that maybe the average fan doesn't think about. And it's very, very interesting. And you hear that ruffling, my cat is crazy. And then Bato says, oh, please, that clone trooper in the 501st journal disproves that assertion. And that's another thing is those journals, the 501st journals as well. Listening to that's amazing stuff right there. Again, there's so much into the lore, so much going on that you can get into. The softer side of genocide. I don't know. I mean, seriously. I mained a Mandalorian tune, the Sator, after finished the Sith arc. Unsurprisingly, I took most of my work from them. They paid better than the Jedi. Laugh out loud. I seriously don't have time for games, but I really need to get into that. Oh, I love the way you talk, OG. Laugh out loud. Thank you so much. Wrecker is one of my favorite Bad Batch. Really? Bad Batch? I'm sorry. I'm if I hurt feelings, then I do. But if you're like me, you would take it with like, okay, that's how you think. Fine. It doesn't bother me or it doesn't hurt me. But the Bad Batch is a bad knockoff to the Null Arcs. But if you do like it and you have a favorite character, awesome. More power to you. I'm happy you're enjoying it. That's, at least some people are. Becky says, in the original Battlefront 2 game, the 501st Legion was all the way in Empire Strikes Back. Yeah, it was. They were all the way. Like, they weren't there. I think, was it, and correct me if I'm wrong, Becky, from what I remember. Like I said, I didn't play the game, but I am familiar with the history, but not in depth, like if you were to play the game and stuff. But weren't they taken off the Death Star for a particular mission? So that's why they weren't destroyed on the Death Star. And I know that like after Endor, they were dismembered or, they were, that. And then later on, when we get into, was it Survivor's Quest? They were reformed again under, I guess you could say under the hand of Thrawn, I guess you could say. So very interesting history for the 501st there and the clones and stuff there. And that they were still Jango Fett's template. Hi, baby. They were Jango Fett's template, but a lot of them were created on Coruscant, not on Camino. So there's a difference there as well. And I wish there was more into that. And there's a lot more TCW influence, which I don't particularly like. Okay, here he is. Since we've been talking about, oh, you can't really see me because I don't have my my lights on, but we're all on the dark side because I don't have my lights on or anything in here, but he is now in my lap. I think he wants to take a nap and he's purring. So say hello to Darth Toby. This is Darth Toby. Yeah. Let's see here. Let's go ahead and you can't crawl up on my laptop and stuff and get into my stuff here. Let's see here. I understand. Okay, good. Like I said, I'm not going to bash you for liking Disney stuff. It's just I don't care for it. And if I speak against it in some way of like talking about the lore and me not liking it or compare and contrast and whatnot, don't take it to heart. I mean, it's just what it is, and that was the intention of Disney anyways when they throughout the EU was to have their own creativity. They are going to do stuff that goes against the EU, but when it goes against the movies, that's where I speak out the loudest. But I will still show how it contradicts even the EU portion of those type of characters. So when the Death Star prisoners rebelled and the 501st was removed for not securing it and stopping the transfer of the Death Star plans. Correct. There you go. See, I was remembering bits and pieces of it. So, and then when the Death Star prisoners rebelled, the 501st was removed for not securing. Oh, how come I read that twice? Or it went on twice. I don't know why it did twice for you. Hello, Darth Toby. Yes, Darth Toby. He is purring. I don't know if you guys can hear that. But he's purring. All right. They were on the Death Star for early missions, but they got assigned to a mission. Correct. Okay. Sir Toby in Shakespeare's 12th Night was a funny character. He is who I think of when I hear the name Toby. Nice. Yeah, when I got him, the kids wanted different names, and I'm like, we're going to call him Toby. I then call you Darth Toby. Okay, so let's get back to the article. Okay. No, you can't play with my hair. Ow! And he likes my hair because it's long and stringy. Star Wars has confirmed that even if the Empire had wanted to keep the Republic's clone army, soldiers like Commander Cody would have proven the core challenge as seen in the Bad Batch Season 2. While they were genetically created to be more obedient and follow orders with loyalty to the Republic. So it was loyalty to who was in command, not loyalty to the Republic. There's a difference. There's a difference because you do have the clones being phased into the first generation of the stormtroopers. It was loyalty to who was in command, and that has always been Palpatine. So there shouldn't be a bad transition from the clone army to the Stormtrooper Corps. The reign of the Empire caused many clones to question the New Order while struggling to adapt to its cruel oppression. Now, what do you guys think about this? The reign of the Empire caused many clones to question the New Order while struggling to adapt to the cruel oppression. Now, the Disney lore has chips. So the chips makes them be more compliant, I think. I don't know. I'm not sure where they are going with the direction of this chip here. But when you have genetically altered clones, like the true intention of George Lucas and stuff, and they know who they are or who is their commander, who they take orders from, that never changes. Only the name of the quote-unquote government, I guess you can say, changes. And the reorganization of how the galaxies run changes, but it doesn't change for them. It's still the same orders. It is still the same people in command to them. In a reality, the Senate really never commanded them. Yeah, they had Jedi generals, but once Order 66 is enacted, the Jedi become enemies. And that has never changed. Unless, and you have circumstances in the lore, in, I think it is the Empire comics, or could it be one of them, and it's when Luke Skywalker comes in and he's already helping with the Rebel Alliance, and they find a lone abandoned clone, and I forget which comics it was. And because there's no chip, he never got the order of Order 66. He didn't even know what happened because he was abandoned or whatever on a planet. So he didn't know all that happened. So when he heard Luke was a Jedi, then he, basically seen Luke as someone that would be his commanding officer. So see how the chip kind of like makes you question things and creates more questions, and maybe even starting to creating these little plot holes. It's something that they have to, work out within their new lore. Will they? Probably not. So let's go ahead and move on. But I am curious to see what you guys have to say about this right here, since I highlighted it. They secured and stopped the riot, but the rebels. All right, I already read that one, I think. No one said anything just yet, so let's go ahead and move on here. Maybe you guys are just digesting, and I don't have the article back up on here for whatever reason. Here we go. I was just sharing my screen, but still, you guys knew what I was talking about because I was reading it to you. All right, so again, reign of the Empire caused many clones to question the New Order while struggling to adapt to the cruel oppression. What oppression are they going through? That's the thing. As being created as troopers to obey their lead commander, and that's Palpatine, what is their oppression for them? Okay. Star Wars has been unveiled more about the transitional era of the Galactic Republic to the Empire, and the Bad Batch animated series is particularly focused on the impact the change has had on the clones. So like I said, they took the concept of the null arcs, if you're familiar with that lore, in the original lore, and made the Bad Batch. And every single one of the Bad Batch, pulled out or had their chip removed. No, little one, no. Had their chip removed. So those clones like Cody, who didn't have their chip removed, then they're still taking command and orders, and nothing has really changed for them because the chip is still intact. And so it goes on to say, while the majority of clones, Force 99, Captain Rex, and a few others choose to go rogue. Crosshair remained loyal to the Empire. Likewise, The Bad Batch Season 2, Episode 3 features Crosshair joining a mission. So those who know more about The Bad Batch, who has chips and who doesn't, let me know in the chat. Crosshair joining a mission led by Cody, formerly Obi-Wan Kenobi's clone commander prior to the Jedi Purge. However, this episode clearly shows Cody struggling with his role in Order 66 as well as his continued service to the Empire. All right, so this goes back to the points I made that I want to discuss with you guys on Cody was giving, Cody was basically no nonsense and follow the issuance of Order 66. Like, that was his thing. That's what he was bred to do. Without question. Without questioning, once his top commander, and that's not Kenobi, once his top commander gave that order, then he's to follow it. Okay, Kitty, stop. He's like behind me playing with my hair. This little one needs to go now. You need to go somewhere and go hang out, go to sleep. Go, 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 baby. Go, go, go. So they're bred to take command. Okay. Take orders, not command. Yeah, take orders. So why is he now questioning that? Yes, he's 91% similar to Jango Fett, so he has independent thought. But once that order is done and his genetically altered, so his mind is still genetically altered to take commands without question. And that's the point I'm getting at. So, that's one thing I don't get is, okay, so his chip is not removed. I'm trying to get this concept of the chip down. So he still is very much in compliance. And for him, nothing should have changed other than the naming of the galaxy, of who's in control. It went from the old Republic to the Galactic Empire. Still has the same person in command. Still has the same things that he's been pressing since he's been manipulating the war. Nothing has changed other than the name reorganizing the army or the troops, the army, the navy, the Marines, or whatever, other than reorganizing that. So let's go on. And I want to hear your guys' thoughts in there because this is very interesting. This to me is another way of bastardizing one of George's characters. Cody also proves that Empire didn't do itself any favors with the clones, although leaders such as Vice Admiral Rampart proposed replacing the clones with enlisted troopers almost immediately with Project War Mantle. So this is Disney. We know that it took a while for them to start phasing out the clones and bringing in birthed, genetically organic, I guess you could say, birthed humans. Its treatment of the clones in the interim was quite problematic. Case in point, the secondary colors and the personal decals mini clones would use to express their identity were taken away. Oh my God, poor them. Do they not know that the colors that some of them wore were associated to their leadership roles, not necessarily independence? But I guess this is like a TCW influence here. Taken away. Confirmed that Commander Cody's basic gray and white armor, rather than the orange he used to have with his own designs. The orange was designation to who he was as a trooper, as a commander. Are they forgetting this? I'm going to see what you guys are saying. I am very curious to see what you guys are saying. So I have 16 beautiful souls here. Please hit the like button. Please share. Let's see here. OG's car must be, what? OG's car must be a Star Trek fan. Always acting up when Star Wars, or you mean Cat, is being talked about, right? Filoni is a clown, truly. Let's see here. Nobody ever leaves the army. Only rogues. We're hunted down by clone assassins. Correct. Yeah. But they're forgetting that. There's a lot of little things out there. Like I said, it's so detailed in the lore. Like you can get into just like specifically the clones. And if you just skirt the top of it, you're missing out on a lot. There's so many layers to this. It's such a huge, like, world in itself. There's so much character development, so much lore development behind the clones that what you see in the movies and some parts what you read is just the skimming over the surface of it. Really, it is. I gotta run. You all have a wonderful day. May the force be with you, OG Star Wars. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. Let's see here. Cody went from blast him to growing a conscience. Yeah. So he went from having these balls of like, yeah, blast him. We're doing what we need to do here. We're abiding by. And he understood that they were bred. They were made, genetically designed to be who they are. That's why he's seen the humans as human stormtrooper as inferior. And he's seen these clones as superior. So that's a difference. That's the night and day between Cody in the original lore and Cody in the Disney lore. I don't know if you can hear him purring, but he finally settled down in my arms here. OGs. Oh, yeah, you already said that. Let's see here. Let me scroll down. Admiral Rampart. What a cartoony joke of a name, right? You know why the clones are mostly resisting the Empire in Disney lore? Because they're brown men. I did point that out earlier. I hate this tokenism when it comes to minorities. It's okay that he served General Kenobi and still went with orders and still has the mindset he has after that. It's okay. Nothing wrong with that. It just shows like how much of a, it just shows his character, I guess you could say. It doesn't have to fall into today's narrative of like, we must make a certain skin color bad and a certain skin color good because of diversity and blah, blah, blah. It's not about that. It's about just what he was genetically made for. That's it. Skin color has nothing to do with it. Really, it has nothing to do with it whatsoever. It's what he's genetically bred for, basically. And when you get into the Commando Republic series, which I highly recommend, you do get them thinking about their roles as clones and how the Jedi treat them. And you get their aspect of this. But now it's the opposite. It's like, so it's like night and day here. And the Bad Batch is making some of these characters into softies, I guess you can say. I don't know. You don't even have to qualify who you are for that. I understand. Like I'm Native American and Filipino with a little bit of French and Spanish. And I understand that. I hate this tokenism that's going on. He's bred to think this way. And that's what he's doing. That's what he's doing. And it was so much better before Filoni. Well, I find it funny that Disney made Boba Fett tone down and question things. So, of course, his clones have to do the same. But see, Boba Fett, yeah, he's 100% like Jango. I understand. And, but I understand what your point you're getting to as well. I don't know. It's weird. It's weird. I love Cody, even though we don't get much about his life during the Empire. His headcanon was that, or your headcanon was that he was an Imperial patriot. I'm pretty sure he probably was, because he's seen himself superior to what Palpatine created and the rise of the Empire. And he still served them. So put two and two together. Solo Sansa says only clones who had the chance to leave were the ARC troops because they were very independent and rebellious. Correct. Cody wasn't that rebellious, really, or not, or that genetically close to Fett. And that shows in the lore. And when those ARC troopers, like the Noel ARCs and stuff like that, when they left, Cal Scarada is the one that created, I guess you could say, the what you would consider an underground railroad, where he helped them leave, and he helped build communities on Mandalore and other locations so that they can slowly integrate into a new life, a Mandalorian life, because they were trained as Mandalorians. Basically, that's all they knew, and that's the difference. And I love that difference. I love that difference. It is shared and it is expanded on, versus someone like Cody, who is more closer genetically bred to be controlled. And he was controlled. Only clones who had the chance to leave were, oh yeah, I read that one. I don't know why. I don't know why sometimes yours is coming up twice. I don't know why. Dark Lord, The Rise of Darth Vader explains a lot between the clone commanders and the regular clone troopers. Correct. And that's another great novel that you guys need to read. It's not unabridged on Audible, so I recommend reading it first, but the Audible is amazing to listen to as well. But you will be missing some key points from that. So I would say read first, then listen to the audibles that are abridged. Unabridged, I would say, if you want a little bit more of Star Wars, like sound effects and stuff like that, and it has the whole story, then I'd say, go ahead and listen to that. But also read the book. Always read the book, and then choose which one you want to do, like abridged or unabridged, and stuff. So yeah, that's my take. James says, didn't like it either. Correct. Republic Commando fan audio. Yeah. When I was talking with Soul Assassin last night about that, sharing the Cringe Factor article, he shared this with me as well. And it's wonderful to listen to, you guys. So I highly recommend that. Batu says, oh, sorry guys, gotta go. Work's calling. See you next week. Thank you so much for taking time to sit down and chat Star Wars with us. Thank you so much for coming in. Republic Commando 000. Is this looks like it might be the YouTube Audible? Yeah. All right. Yeah, so let me go ahead. I don't want to get too much into this, but I just wanted to point out some things. And like I said, there's key points to when I was sharing some of his biography with you guys earlier. There's key points I wanted to discuss. Okay, likewise, Rampart refuses to call Cody or any clone by their chosen names. They didn't choose to call themselves that. Like I said, Kenobi, in his compassion, because they're still humans, he named his generals. And so he named Cody. Otherwise, he didn't care that he was called CC-2224. Really. So it wasn't a human name that was granted to him, or a regular name that was granted to him, not his designated call number for his, for him being a trooper. Cody, so Cody wasn't just a name given to him because he advanced into a commander. It was something that set Kenobi apart from other Jedi. He named his commanders. So there's that difference. So I think this person's not associating with that, or maybe the creators that are expanding on Cody's lore and Disney lore with the Bad Batch, they're not putting two together. But again, they threw out the EU, so there's no source material, right? All right. So he refuses to them he instead refers to them by their identification number, other than another example of removing their unique expression that many of the Jedi encouraged. Not really. A lot of Jedis didn't really name their commanders. It was General Kenobi that did, setting the clone army apart from the droids. And when it was a regular trooper, they weren't really named either. Droids that they fought during the Clone Wars. It's no wonder clones kept questioning the Empire beyond general galaxy. The dark new regime took away what little freedom and personal individuality they had. So what do you guys think about that? So the dark new regime So there's keywords here. So they're not allowed to express and identify as they should. These are the terms used today. So, and people are fighting about today in this woke culture war, pop culture war, or whatever you want to call it, is identifying who you want to be. So if you feel like being a cat, oh, I'm a cat, for example. I'm being hyperbolic there too. And then also going into being oppressed, especially a person of color, being oppressed, which goes into the tokenism that I talked about. This is Star Wars. Race and skin color really didn't matter. Human race was associated by the planet they were born on, are raised on, are known for. Not for a certain subclass of humans like Mexican, Asian, or what have you. So see what they're doing here? All right. And so beyond taking away everything that made the clones unique, Commander Cody also shows how continued service to the Empire was never going to work in the long term for most clones. Case in point, Crosshair's mission with Cody to save an Imperial governor from a separatist holdout saw the commander managing to talk down the separatist leader from killing the governor. Okay, so aren't they kind of acting like they did during the Clone Wars? Because they were fighting against the separatists. So instead of killing him, he's just talking him down. What's the difference? Promising a peaceful negotiation. However, the governor demands the separatist execution immediately after he was freed. An order Crosshair followed despite Cody's protest. So Crosshair is kind of like in character with what was set in the original lore. But not Cody, because Cody's a popular character that served under Kenobi. So now he needs to not think because, he needs to come out of oppression. See how that goes? See the difference between Cody in Disney lore versus Cody in the original lore? Considering Cody's decision to go AWOL upon their return to Coruscant, it's evident that the majority of clones were not created to look the other way in face of the Empire's corruption and cruelty. It's a dark reason why the Empire wanted stormtroopers whom they could manipulate much easier going forward in Star Wars timeline. Okay, so let's go into the creation of the First Order. We go from genetically altered clones so that they obey commands without question to kids being stolen from their families and raised to follow. You're still going to have more freedom of choice with someone that's not genetically altered than you're going to have with the clones. See how this doesn't make sense? Cody is a genetically altered being to take command without question, to follow orders, basically to follow. But then you get the humans being recruited who have more independent thought because they're not genetically altered like clones. They're not clone made. Yet we're being told that they will follow orders without question because they can be manipulated. However, the clones were genetically manipulated from the start, so they never had too much of an independent thought process like a regular human birth character in Star Wars. Wrap your head around that. Wrap your head around that. As such, here's hoping Commander Cody will be able to reunite with Captain Rex and the rest of the Clone Force 99 as the Bad Batch continues. So there you go, you guys. What do you think about this? What do you think about this? Do you think that they're not understanding the concept whatsoever about the genetically altered clones who are designed to follow orders without question, to comply without question, to follow without question, versus the recruitment of humans who are born of individual thought. And they're saying that Cody, so they're making Cody the human-born, organically born human who was never manipulated, genetically altered, and saying the people that they're recruiting are now thinking like the clones. See how they're flipping that around? Yeah, I know. I remember that. Cody named her Bly, Plo Koon named his wolf, and even Coyote. Yeah, they followed Kenobi, but my point is that Kenobi, it came from Kenobi. My point is that they were still called by their designated numbers. It doesn't mean that they were being dehumanized. They already were dehumanized, but a lot of them, like Cody, still seen themselves as superior. Alpha 17 also gave names to the clones under his training when he took over the ARC program. Yeah. And let's see. It's so boring to reflex our world in science fiction. It is. And my point with the renaming basically is like, we seen it with Kenobi, and yeah, it did latch on, and I was thinking about that, and you guys were like, here you go, Laura, you're kind of wrong here, and yeah, I am. But my point also is that, when you look at the troopers together, they also had names for each other, right? But when they were also designated those trooper numbers, but they were already dehumanized in a sense, and that they also seen themselves as superior towards the end, those who stayed with, and Cody's proof of that. Let's see here. Clones were altered to be stronger and faster than the normal human. First orders wouldn't stand a chance against them in battle. Correct. And that's the thing. And I didn't really bring up their physicality, or I did a little bit towards the beginning of the show, but I didn't, emphasize. So let me rephrase that. I didn't emphasize their physicality because, we're not comparing the physicality. We're comparing the thought process of taking commands and following, so let's see here. Filoni is just showing how much he doesn't know about George Lucas's Star Wars. I think they're reading too much into clones. Yeah, I think so too. I think they're confused about what they're designated and designed for. It's almost as if they haven't thought about a baseline. Correct. And Lance says, at OG Stars, I think the change is dumb. If clones could rebel this easy, Palpatine wouldn't have tied the loose ends much sooner before they could do harm on the Empire. Correct. And that's the thing. That's the thing here. So there you have it. So Cody now is thinking like a human, organic birth human. So any genetically altered, anything that was genetically altered with him in the mindset really isn't applying here anymore. And so, we have, after Order 66, he was the first generation of the Imperial Stormtroopers in the Stormtrooper Corps. He helped train. He helped lead. He thought it was a joke that he was stationed on Camino with them, protecting the facility there and keeping Starkiller, I guess you could say in prison there or whatever. And there was there was tension between him and the stormtroopers, the human stormtroopers. And so there's that little story there. But he disliked them. He seen himself and clones more superior. Versus now he's regretting, he doesn't like, he was oppressed. He sees the Empire as evil. See the difference there? And yeah, he was given name by Kenobi. Kenobi set the lead on naming their commanders. And then we get the stories of the from the Republic Commando series and what they thought about the Jedi and how they seen the Jedis being enslavers, I guess you can say. And I'm being hyperbolic and paraphrasing here. But in the end, those who stayed and did not defect and disappear into the Mandalorian culture, into the greater galaxy. They helped create the Stormtrooper Corps. They were basically the foundation of that. Yeah, they were phased out. We know that. We know the history on behind that. They were phased out. Let me see. OG Star Wars. If we were talking about fighting in the universe, the Galactic Empire special force skills and tech-wise would sweep all clone special forces. Same with Empire pilots versus clone pilots. And that's something we can debate. So what do you guys think about that? Disney just wants to take away the win from Palpatine. They want to make him look so fascist, I guess you could say, so oppressive. And I get it, he was xenophobic. He was xenophobic. But if the species or if the beings served him, he was willing to accept and tolerate them to serve him. And once they stopped serving him, they were gone. So if there was any kind of malfunction with these clones to where they would have so much of freedom of thought, they would have been terminated. Plain and simple. So this does not make sense whatsoever. Cody could have died during the Starkiller clone rebellion attack on Kamino. Be a better way to go out than if Filoni's way. Yeah. Clones that stayed became training instructors, correct? And even made into Dark Troopers, correct? And then we have the Kyle Katarn story that goes into the Dark Troopers and all that. Yeah, so like all of it, like I said, is there's a lot of like they go in together. There's a lot of synergy between the lore, like one continuous history that leads to one story to another and links to each other as history does. So there you guys go. We are over the hour now. What do you guys think? And thank you guys for the correction on the names, the naming process. Again, I still stand that Kenobi is the one that led it. And then of course, all the other Jedi commanders also named as well. But my point is that it wasn't like they named themselves, like they're suggesting in this article. They were more humanized by the Jedi in a sense, but it wasn't a designation that they were given once they became commanders. They still had their troop number, their commander number, I guess you can say. And then you have some of the clones talking about how the Jedi just led a slave army and that they were the slaves and stuff. Like I said, so much lore, so much in-depth lore of the concept, like of how the clones perceive themselves and how they perceive the Jedi. And it goes well with who Jango Fett is. And Cody, if he has such designated, like independent thought process to want to go AWOL, who he was trained by, an ARC trooper, who then, had some influence from in Mandalorian culture. And that influence trickles down. But my point is the independent thought process would be similar to Jango Fett's, right? Because that's who they are from. Genetically from, exact copy or near exact copy from. That means they would have a sense of not seeing Jedi as companions, as allies in a sense. They wouldn't see, there's a lot of points that they wouldn't see. Like Jango worked specifically with Palpatine or Dooku, basically. And in a sense, they were like about themselves in a sense too. Like Jango was, and was, I'm like trying to get to a point here, and didn't fall into victimhood of oppression and stuff like that. There you go. I got it right there. That's the point I'm coming to. So if he was more individual thought, then he wouldn't be stuck on the suppression hood and stuff like that. He would be more independent of like just going off on his own and starting his own life and stuff like that. Yeah, but anyways, Lancer says, OG Star Wars, was Cody aware of terror troopers on Camino when he made his statement about stormtroopers? I think it's a sour grape statement from him. If so, they are like 40K assassins. I think he was aware of that. Let's clone Toby and take over the world like crazy kitty with a crazy kitty army. Well, thank you so much. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. And let's keep this conversation going and keep an eye out on where they're taking Cody. Because this is like night and day with the original lore versus the Disney lore and where they're taking with his concept and his thought process and stuff. As if he was never a clone. As if he was never a Jango Fett clone at that. And so please hit the like button, subscribe, become a member, and I shall catch you guys later. Coffee chat is going to be every Thursday, 9 a.m. Sorry that we're not discussing anything about our Star Wars series coming out. I didn't post that yet. We're still working through some stuff in personal life of funeral services and all that. Yeah, so that will be coming. So next week we'll have the first topic. Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait for that. So again, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I will catch you on Twitter. Look out for the poll for the last Old Republic era Sith poll so that we can move on through the eras of the Sith and come and vote down to the top Sith. And I look forward to doing that. And thank you guys again for participating in that as well. XR Kun is the winner, and we'll press on with one more vote round of Old Republic Sith, and then we'll move on. So stay tuned for that. It'll be here in the community portion of YouTube. So hopefully by the end of the day, I'll have that out for you guys as well. So thank you guys in for tuning in, and may the Force be with you.
Prepare yourself for Star Wars, Shadows of the Empire. The evil Empire has struck back with a vengeance, and a new villain, the crime lord Shizor, schemes to replace Darth Vader as the Emperor's second-in-command. With Han Solo held frozen in carbonite by bounty hunter Boba Fett, it's the rebellion's darkest hour. Now, join Jedi warrior Luke Skywalker, hard-charging Chewbacca, and go undercover with heroic pilot Dash Rendar and his booming Outrider. But can Han Solo be freed and Shizor be stopped? Star Wars, Shadows of the Empire. Look for the authentic figures and vehicles from Kenner.
Another happy landing.